Time is always moving, never stopping, never giving second chances. But what if someone could bend it? What if time could be rewritten like a story, changing the past, reshaping the future? This is the tale of a hero caught in a tangled web of history, a web woven through the centuries by an enemy unlike any other. And at the heart of it all, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, who's about to face a challenge beyond anything he's ever imagined. It was an ordinary day in New York City, the kind Spider-Man had seen 100 times before. But something was off. Peter's spider sense tingled in a way that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. He couldn't shake the feeling, as if time itself had skipped a beat. Suddenly, the sky above fractured, splitting apart like glass, and from it emerged a figure draped in shadow and power. The figure stepped through the breach, a villain named Chronos, a master of time. His presence distorted everything around him, as clocks twisted and gears spun in the air. Chronos had one goal: to take control of the timeline, to reshape history as he saw fit. And in his hands, time wasn't just a concept, it was a weapon. Before Peter could act, Chronos unleashed a wave of temporal energy, striking Spider-Man with a force that sent him spinning. In the blink of an eye, Peter was no longer in his city. He was falling, hurtling through time itself, tumbling through eras he had only read about. Ancient Egypt spread out before him, a land of pyramids, pharaohs, and endless desert. Spider-Man had landed in a time long before skyscrapers and web-slinging. Peter's instincts kicked in as he dodged a barrage of arrows from ancient guards, all while trying to piece together what had happened. But there was no time to think. An enormous sundial, glowing with energy, stood at the center of the desert city. Chronos doing, no doubt. Peter had to stop it before it twisted history beyond repair. With a leap, Peter scaled the sundial, using his webs to jam its mechanisms. The sandstorm that had begun to swirl around him slowed to a stop as the sundial's power was interrupted. The timeline, at least for this era, was safe. But Chronos wasn't finished. His laughter echoed through the desert air, and before Peter could catch his breath, he was flung once again into the currents of time. This time, Peter found himself in medieval England, standing in the shadow of a massive, ancient clock tower. The village around him was caught in a chaotic loop. People aged and de-aged in front of his eyes, stuck in moments they could never escape. The tower's gears, manipulated by Chronos, were wreaking havoc on the town, and it was up to Spider-Man to set things right. Swinging up the clock tower, Peter could feel the weight of time pressing down on him. Each tick of the clock felt like a lifetime passing by. But Spider-Man was nothing if not resourceful. Using his webs, he jammed the clock's gears, forcing it to stop its erratic movements. The people below returned to their rightful place in time. But just as before, Chronos' voice echoed in the air, taunting Peter with what was to come. The next stop on Peter's journey through time was Feudal Japan. Here, the challenge was different, but just as dangerous. Warriors, twisted by the manipulation of time, flickered in and out of existence, their forms shifting between different timelines. A battle that had once raged centuries ago was now playing out endlessly, with no hope of resolution. Peter teamed up with a legendary samurai, working together to defeat Chronos' time-shifted warriors and bring peace back to the land. Peter soon realized that each era held a piece of the puzzle, a clue to Chronos' ultimate plan. By manipulating key moments in history, Chronos was trying to create a world where he ruled all time, bending it to his will. And the final piece? New York City in Peter's own time, but twisted beyond recognition. When Peter was finally flung back into the present, his city was unrecognizable. The skyline was a chaotic blend of past, present, and future. Buildings from different eras stood side by side, people from all walks of life wandering aimlessly, trapped out of time. At the center of it all stood Chronos, atop a clock tower of his own making, the power of time radiating from him like a storm. This was it, the final battle. Peter knew he couldn't let Chronos win. Time itself was at stake. As the two clashed, Chronos used his powers to rewind and fast-forward the fight, making Spider-Man relive moments over and over, hoping to break him. But Peter wasn't just fighting with his fists. He was fighting with his heart, his wit, and his resolve to protect the people of his city, no matter what timeline they were from. With a well-timed move, Peter managed to web Chronos' hourglass, the source of his power, and smash it to pieces. Time, once distorted, began to fall back into place. The twisted skyscrapers, the lost people, the fractured moments, all of it began to fade, returning to their rightful place in history. Chronos, powerless and defeated, was pulled into the void of time he had tried so hard to control. As New York returned to its normal state, Peter Parker stood on the roof of a building, watching the sunrise. He had saved the timeline, but more than that, he had learned a valuable lesson. Time may move forward, but the choices we make, the people we protect, and the legacies we leave behind, that's what truly matters. Because in the end, a hero's greatest power isn't in controlling time. It's in using the time they have to make a difference. And that's exactly what Spider-Man had done. Time may never stop, but Spider-Man? He'll always be there, swinging through the streets, ready to protect his city, no matter what era he finds himself in.